I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out.
You want Philly?
Chase Utley, you are the man.
You come out backyard and you try to start something, you always get your butt kicked.
The prayers have been answered.
How about those Eagles, baby?
And Rio Muto can run for days.
Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
A perfect game. Roy Halladay has thrown the second perfect game in Philadelphia Phillies history.
What was that one thing Chase Utley said in the Phillies postseason hype video? There's one thing Atlanta has never done. Beat Philly in the postseason. And once again, they could not beat Philly in the postseason. For the second year in a row, the Phillies are going to the NLCS after knocking out the Atlanta Braves in the NLDS. The absolute emotions from this series, especially especially after game 2, with everything that happened. And you remember I put out the video right before game 3 and I was saying, you can't talk, you gotta wait before things are done. And shout out to the Phillies as well. You saw they interviewed a lot of different guys like JT, like Nick Castellanos, like Bryce Harper. And, you think you're going to get like these quotes like rubbing in the loss or, saying this or that. But what happens? Nope. Cool, calm, and collected. Every single Philly has the same mindset that I said that, not only the players but the fans need to have. And that's job's not finished. Don't talk until things are finished, And even though we beat the Braves, job still isn't finished because now we got the Diamondbacks next. And if you get past them, you got the World Series to finish, which you got to take care of, unlike last year, So it's that whole thing of, don't talk because it could come back to bite you. And boy, did it bite them, huh? Speaking of which, if I haven't said it already, we're back with Philly talk. As I mentioned in the last episode, I was going to get one out after the NLDS, so that way I wasn't having to cover multiple things. And because I was rushing to get that video out, I also forgot to talk about the Eagles' upcoming matchup against the Jets. So I'll have a little bit of that there. And hopefully by this upcoming week, when we do the Philly talk episode covering the Eagles-Jets game, and I think at that time, the first game of the NLCS will happen. So when we're talking about that, we'll hopefully get back to the format of the good, the bad, looking forward. But just keeping things simple here, just to get this recap out real quickly about the NLDS. So we get to game 3, and that was the one thing I was mentioning. We got to get to Bryce Elder. We got to get in these guys' head, like we really got to get to them fast. You can't let them take a game in Philly and all that. And when you look at it, we were doing pretty good. And again, also Nola was starting, so I had a lot of faith. I think I mentioned in that last video, I've been a supporter of Nola for the longest time. I just wanted nothing but to see him succeed, and the game he did here was an absolute masterclass, man. I believe he finished off with 5.2 innings pitched. I forget the amount of here. Well, let me just pull up the stats right now. It was 5.2 innings pitched. He did let up 2 earned runs, but he struck out 9. He's just been phenomenal for us. Hope to see him keep it up in the NLCS, especially with the rest that him and Wheeler will be getting. And things started out kind of slow. Neither team could get things really going until the top of the third, when Acuna hit a double and then Albies hit a single to drive him in. And so that made the game 1-1. And we needed, obviously to tie it up. And what happens? Well, Nick Castellanos hits a home run off of Bryce Elder. Then Marsh hits a single. Rojas and Kyle Schwarber get out. Turner gets on base with a single. Marsh goes to third. Up comes Bryce Harper. The whole talk was about the Orlando Arcia thing of attaboy Harper after making that mess up. And what does Harper do? Well, he does what MV3 has always done. He hits a huge home run. That ball went flying, puts us up 4-1 at this point. And then we get Alec Bohm singling, Bryson Stott walks. That's when they bring in Michael Tonkin to replace Bryce Elder. Got him out early, got to him. And then JT hits a double, and it rounds all the way back to Castellanos, who ends up striking out to end that inning. But absolute amazing inning, now up 6-1. And Nola just keeps it going in the following innings. Fly ball from Darno, strikes out Rosario, strikes out Arcia. Trying to see. We get another Bryce Harper home run, this one off of Brad Hand. Honestly, gotta shout out Michael Harris for like the amazing defense he had been playing throughout this series. And this one just happened to be one of his I believe like mess ups. Like I think back to when Pache hit that home run, and when we talked about it against the Marlins, we talked about how like if that center fielder had played it a bit better, he could have potentially like caught it. And this one, like Michael Harris was trying his best to track it and get it, and like I feel like he maybe could have got it, but maybe that's just because the camera made it look like the ball was closer than maybe it went. But he almost fell over the fence, which was crazy. And I do think he maybe could have got it if he played a bit better, but at the same time, it was just bound to happen with Harper being having that fire lit in him to just want to get back at them for that. And of course also you're bringing it back to Philadelphia, so it's much harder to play. And Braves tried their best, but they couldn't really get things going. And just to put the finishing touches on this, you get back-to-back home runs from Nick Castellanos and Brandon Marsh. Absolutely great stuff. And Michael Lorenzen comes in to close it out. So that was game 3. That was real fun. But game 4, this is where everything was on the line. This is the elimination game for Atlanta. This is the game that could send the Phillies to the NLCS. So much nerves. We got Ranger on the mound, Mr. Ranger. Probably, one of our best performances that we've seen, especially because, if you look at his stats against the Braves, he's done absolutely well. I forget like what his total stats are, but I know he hadn't let up like a run in a while. Obviously, in this game, he lets up a home run to Austin Riley, and that ends up being the Braves' sole run. But it was funny when that home run happened. My dad and I a bit worried because we're like, oh come on, because up until this point they were struggling to get to Spencer Strider. But as soon as I saw that home run happen, I told my dad, I'm like, that's gonna light a fire under this team to be like, all right, it's time to wake up. We can't let them just get this and go with it. And what happens? Nick Castellanos home run off of Spencer Strider. Ranger comes back out, closes out, come back to the top of the lineup. Trey Turner home run. And then from there it was pretty scoreless until the bottom of the 6th. Nick Castellanos hits another home run. We're up 3-1. And this is where things got a bit scary. So they took out Ranger after going through the top of the 5th. And Sir Anthony Dominguez came in to pitch the top of the 6th, and he takes care of business. Then Jose Alvarado comes in for the top of the 7th. And he gets a pop fly and he gets a ground out. So he only needs to get one more out. But then he starts to struggle. He walks Kevin Pillar. He walks Orlando Arcia. And so at this point, they're like, there's 2 guys on base. Screw it. Let's get him out of here. And they bring in Craig Kimbrell. And this was super confusing because we're like, that's usually our 1-2 closers, the commentary team mentioned it too. They were like, this is usually the setup and closer interchangeably, either one is setting up and closing, but yet they're bringing him in here for the 7th. And this really worried my dad and I, because we were like, who's gonna close the game if it's not one of these guys? And like I started thinking, I'm like we started going through a list of people left in the bullpen. And we're like, do they give the big moment to the rookie, Orion Kirkring, Do they go with Gregory Soto, after seeing that he could do it in that Marlins game, though there was a bigger lead, and maybe that's why they were holding out faith that this Philly lineup could bring in a bit more runs so that it wasn't a safe situation. We started thinking of like all the different options. We were like, do they bring in Lorenzen to try and close it? Like, what are they going for here? But Craig Kimbrell comes in, he walks Travis d'Arnaud, so that loads the bases up, and at this point we're like, oh my gosh, like this is super stressful. And I just love that video where you see Craig Kimbrell, he throws that pitch, Acuna makes contact, and the crowd goes silent, and it's completely silent. You see Rojas running, and I also love there was video. This one fan got the footage from that spot where he sees Rojas coming in, and you just hear all the fans screaming and like yelling to him, room, you got room, to let him know. Rojas, the rookie, makes that absolutely amazing catch, absolutely crazy stuff, and the crowd erupts once they realize he caught it. Saves potentially that I'm not even gonna say potentially, that's a game-winning save right there, because at the very least that ties the game. I don't necessarily know if Nicky Lopez, who came into pinch run for Travis d'Arnaud, could score from first off of that double, or I don't even know if it was a double. Who knows, like what that could have been for Acuna, but that saves the game from at the very least being tied. So that was absolutely crazy. And from here, we tried to get stuff going, but they really couldn't get a lot of stuff going, which sucked. But then we get to the top of the 8th, and Kimbrel decides, since he only faced the one, they decide to keep him in there. He gets a fly ball from Ozzy Albies. He strikes out Austin Riley. And at this point, this is when they bring in Gregory Soto and ground out from Matt Olson. So at this point, my dad like, well, he only faced the one batter. I think they're going to go with him. And they do. I do got to mention it. There was that scary part with Bryce Harper and Matt Olson, with Bryce Harper's elbow. Completely scared the crap out of us. We were like, no, come on, no. Hopefully, nothing gets aggravated or that. I hope they're monitoring Harper and really looking into him, making sure that hopefully nothing really is wrong with him. I hope it doesn't mess with his swing and all that, And obviously, it wasn't Olson's fault. It was obviously an accident, At this point in the game, he's just trying to rush and get on base. He's just trying to beat that out, to do anything to keep his team in. But yeah, we get to the top of the 9th. Gregory Soto still pitching. He walks Ozuna. He lets up a single to Sean Murphy, and that allows Ozuna to get all the way to 3rd. And there was at one point they hit a ball. It wasn't as deep, but like realistically, like I was thinking, could Ozuna have made it home? And I think the thing that stopped him from going home was the fact that when he was coming into 3rd, he slides in, and they even said it themselves that his helmet almost like blocked him from getting to the base. So I think he saw how much of a close call that was, that he didn't try and go home. But so the biggest surprise is that like Soto walks a guy, he singles a guy. The next guy up, it's 3-1. The next guy up, if he hits, a homer, that's that gets them the lead. So we're like really scared here. We're like, oh, there's 2 guys on base. Soto already walked him. Now he let up a single, and you got the bottom of the lineup coming in. And Rob Thompson just played this super well when it came to managing the bullpen. He brings out Matt Strahm, who, has been really great for us. I don't know if many people remember him. He was like our starting pitcher at one point throughout the season. We were having certain injuries and all that. So to see him coming in this moment, he gets a pop fly to Pilar, which again isn't deep. We get Eddie Rosario coming up, and he hits a fly ball. Again, this was the one that I thought Ozuna might run on, but nope, they just kept him on base. And then this is the real confusing part. Game on the line. You're down to your final out. You got 2 guys on base. The Braves bring in Vaughn Grissom to pinch hit for Nicky Lopez. Now, what's the confusing part about this? I started looking into it. I think I saw this guy hasn't played in an MLB game for the Braves since like August. He was apparently like in competition for the starting shortstop spot with Arcia. But I saw like apparently like he hadn't bat since like August, I think it was. And I think you can even check here on Baseball Reference. I'm trying to see, where is it? Vaughn Grissom. You look, the last time he bat was August 23rd, 2023. And yet they're bringing him in for a final out, and doesn't go well. He tries to check swing on the final pitch. Out. Phillies to the NLCS. Absolutely amazing stuff. Down to the wire. Was a great series with the Braves. Obviously, as much as I dislike them, I will always show respect to the other opponent, except if it's the Dallas Cowboys, obviously. But I will still show respect to them. They were a great team. Just couldn't do it when it matters most. And to me, it's just a bit more of a feel-good win after seeing all the complaints from the fans. Not necessarily the players, but the fans. The Braves fans who were constantly making excuses for their teams. And meanwhile, a lot of their different players, it wasn't all of their players, but a select few were like holding their fans accountable, saying, you can make all those excuses, but that's not what lost us the game. Like even Spencer Strider said it himself, that like they lost to their own reasons, not any sort of like not making any excuses like, oh, the playoff format or, the extra days of rest or this and that, the whole, the locker room is a sanctuary. Like, no, I will show appreciation to Spencer Strider that he wasn't trying to make any excuses, especially because it's like it was to the benefit of the Braves. You got to use your 1 and 2 ace while the Phillies had to trot out, the third person in the rotation. Now, Ranger, he did amazing in both his starts, So that's not to downplay him, but it was like they couldn't start Wheeler or Nola against Strider and Fried. They got to start Wheeler against Fried, but they didn't get to do that like both aces starting. They had to do a bullpen game for both the games that Strider was starting. Fried was dealing with that blister. He got the extra time off to deal with it. So it's just kind of annoying that you see all these people making excuses, especially because it pains me to say this, but look at the Astros. They've had such great success even with those extra days of rest. They've found a way to remain consistent despite the supposed disadvantage of the rest days and all that. But so moving on to the Diamondbacks, they're like the Phillies. They're on fire right now, especially offensively. The pitching staff for the Diamondbacks really scares me. You got Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly as the 1-2. Those are going to be the 1-2 in Philadelphia because since we're the higher seed, we obviously get the home game advantage. I will say this. You cannot let them take a game here in Philadelphia. It's going to be super difficult. But to me, it's like you can drop a game, I believe, in Arizona and still find a way to win. But I just don't believe you can drop a game here in Philadelphia. Now, I know in this postseason and the last, we've gotten used to seeing Philly drop at least one game, and it always seems to be game 2 for whatever reason. But I just think you gotta send a message to the Diamondbacks, and what better way than to win both at Philly and take that momentum into their home. It's going to be a real good series. I think it has the potential to go 6 games. Obviously, because I'm a Philly fan, I'm obviously going to pick the Phillies to win because I want to see them win. But again, it's all about the same thing as like we said for the Marlins series and this series against the Braves. It's all about what this team wants to do. It's all about the pitching remaining consistent. It's all about Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger matching their level of consistency these past couple rounds against the Braves and not, against the Diamondbacks, and not letting them keep that momentum that they've had. And it's on the offense to keep things going offensively. It's not time for Nick Castellanos to cool down or Bryce Harper or Trey Turner to cool down. It's time for Kyle Schwarber to heat up. He's kind of been a minimal factor in the previous 2 series, but now it's time for him to heat up. It's time for Alec Bohm to figure out what's going on with him after struggling in this Braves series. It's time for the other bats to sort of wake up. And also, like we saw in this Braves series, the complete opposite of what we saw in the Miami series. It's time to wake up when guys are on base. When you got multiple guys on base, that's not the time for the bats to die down. You got to keep that consistency up. You got to get those base hits. You got to drive these guys in instead of leaving them stranded. Like, that's what killed us in Game 2 against the Braves. So you can't allow any sort of down spot against this Diamondbacks team if you really want to win. And moving on to the Eagles real quick before we wrap up this video. They're playing the Jets. There's a lot going into this game. I didn't get to give my thoughts on what was going to happen in the previous video. But so I'm kind of glad we waited this long, because now we got some injury reports. So Sauce Gardner is apparently not going to play for the Jets, but at the same time, Darius Slay and Jalen Carter are going to be out this game. So that's two of our biggest players on defense, the rookie who's been going off, and Slay, he kind of struggled a bit against he kind of struggled a bit against the Rams, at least in the first half. We've seen some struggles, but he's still our number one corner, so it sucks to see him go down. But at the same time, this Jets offense has really struggled. I don't think, despite his reemergence, Breece Hall, I don't think he's going to be able to do much rushing wise against this defense. I mean, we haven't seen any running back really do much against this defense so far, so I don't expect it to change, even with the departure of Jalen Carter, especially because it's mainly Jordan Davis's role in the run game, where Jalen Carter's more in the pass game. But I think the Jets losing Sauce Gardner for this game is going to be a much bigger impact than the Eagles losing Darius Slay or Jalen Carter. Now, it might hurt them a bit on defense, but the reason I say it is because, the Jets offense, it's not really the best, especially, no disrespect, but with Zach Wilson at quarterback, it's not that much of a threat. We've seen him go up against different teams and sort of struggle. So I don't expect the Eagles defense to really, be the one that lets that offense go off. And even if they do, with the loss of Sauce Gardner, that just opens the door for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith to, dominate. And as we saw in the last game, they're starting to get Dallas Goedert involved over the middle, especially in the red zone. We've seen the red zone struggles. Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce said it themselves. The best way to solve that red zone issue is just feed the ball to Dallas Goedert, because, I mean, as much as you want to get those balls to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I think it's much easier to either run the ball within the red zone or just get it to Dallas Goedert over the middle, So as far as looking over to that game, I do think the Eagles are going to win that one. I know originally I said it was going to be a loss, but that's because I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be the one commanding this offense, and he went down injured. So now I think this Jets one will be a win, at least looking at the prediction now, but overall predictions, that's going to be chalked up to a loss for me, because, I mean, you can't predict injuries, but still. But, yeah, I do think this is going to be a win for the Eagles, and I just look forward to coming back after Game 1 of the NLCS and after the Eagles-Jets game and talking about what can be improved from both teams.